Hi everyone, welcome back to Window Chats with Robyn, the Instagram live podcast where I sit by my window and chat with very interesting people. Today's guest is Ming-Bo Lam, and I'm very excited. And as I started, I thought, oh no, my headphones! I forgot to get them, but hopefully the sound works. I see you, Bo. I'm inviting you in. Here we go. It's happening. Oh, connecting us. Thanks, Chris. Okay, now will it work? It worked! Oh my god, it worked so quickly. Hi!
Hi.
How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear. Can you hear me? I wasn't using
can.
headphones today for no reason, no good reason. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're perfect.
Oh my gosh, I try and dress up for my guests every now and then. I'm like, pink is a bright color, and you have a bright energy. So that was my thought process. But you're so cool.
I'm honored. Oh my gosh, Robyn, you're so cool. Thanks for inviting me to hang out.
Of course.
And talk about things.
Look, you're a fascinating individual. And I mean, I'll give a little shout out to Chris. He recommended you. I'm like, yeah, okay. And then I looked into you. And I'm like, why have I never met you before? You are incredible. You are doing amazing things. And I just need to like chat with you and learn about you and like share you with the world. So thank you for joining me.
Oh, I'm blushing. That is so kind. You're so kind. I'm really stoked to be here and get to know you and talk to you too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, you have headphones in. Is it going to ruin the audio? Oh, no, this is good. Okay.
I
think it's cool. I think I can hear you. No, we're good. Okay.
Okay.
Tech difficulties out of the way. You're sitting by a window.
I am. I like try to.
Oh my.
Yeah, the lighting is, a little fun, but it's there. There's Toronto right there.
It's true. Yeah, we get different views of Toronto. That's the goal.
Yeah. We love it. This is King Street right here.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
That's a cool area to live.
She gets a little noisy. I feel like there's always a siren, like every hour, but it's fine.
It would be interesting if like you hear the siren on my end and then we hear it on your end and then we kind of figure out how far apart we are.
Ooh. Yeah, that's like a whole game in itself.
Yeah. I've never played that before, but maybe today's the day. I don't know.
Maybe we'll make it a thing. Maybe it'll become a Toronto thing.
Spot the siren on the live. It could be. I like this game. Okay.
Yeah.
So how was teaching yesterday? For those who don't know, among the many things that Bo does, she was teaching.
I was teaching. Last night I taught an Interadvanced contemporary class at Studio North in Toronto. They have a studio in Burnaby, BC, so that was their first location, and they opened one here in Toronto. They're wonderful, and my class last night was really special. I'm still like on such a high from it. Like it was just, the energy was incredible. One of my students, Hannah, she requested the song because she lives out of the city, but I'm here for a couple of months and teaching on Fridays, and so she was like, can you reteach that Taylor Swift combo so we can like dance out our feelings? And I mean, you can't say no. Well, I mean, A, I can't say no to Hannah, and then B, it was a really like feel good, feel all the feelings, like sweat it out combo. And so we all just let loose and we're so sweaty. We had like a karaoke, like sing along moment. It was a really great class.
Is this you shared a Taylor Swift video on your Instagram? Is that the
I did. That's the combo. Yeah.
The one that I saw and I thought I could never take a class with you. How is she doing that? I don't understand. What is happening?
Well, you learn it one thing at a time, and that is the Interadvanced class. So like there's some like pretty stellar individuals there, but one of the things I'm really grateful for is like I get quite a range of experiences in my class, and I really love that. I know it's kind of a point of discussion among dance instructors because for a lot of reasons and lots of really valid ones, like you don't want really brand new students in an advanced class because just for purely safety reasons, and also just like the pacing of the class, you need everyone to be able to like move at a similar pace. But in my class I get dancers who are maybe more on the intermediate side of Interadvanced, and then some who are like really far on the advanced level. And it's really special just because I think it really creates this environment where we all get to be reminded of how much we have to learn from each other, no matter where we are in our journey. And it's also a really great exercise for me as a teacher to be mindful and conscious of cultivating as safe a space as possible for people to always feel welcomed and encouraged to show up wherever they are in their journey in a way that like addresses and acknowledges where they are and what they need. So I think, you know, kind of like when you go to a yoga class and they're always like, this is your time for you, in their yoga voice. And, you know, I think an element of that in dance class is really nice too, just to remember that, you know, this is your time, you're paying for this class. You know, you need to honor your body and your needs and whatever it is that you're focusing on in your journey. So yeah.
I wish I would have had you as a dance instructor. I'm just saying. I don't know. You know those across the floor routines where you go, my goodness, don't know who that was catered to, but that's gonna be an epic fail. Here I go, and
yep.
This was my spin. Oh my gosh. That's such an important energy that you have, just an understanding too of everyone's at a different place, and you know, just being respectful of that. Oh my God, that's so important, because no one should feel, you know that feeling. I don't know if you've ever had that in a dance class before you started teaching, but those classes you leave and you go, I just feel gross, and I don't like that, right?
Yes, I've
so
been
many.
there. Yes. Like I've only ever left one class before, and I mean, granted, there were other things going on in my life, but it got to the end of class, and it was just kind of at the beginning of, like, now it's pretty common practice for the studio or people to film at the end of class. Like, it's kind of almost like a given now, but back then it was still kind of new. And just as soon as the person came in with their camera, I was just like, must exit immediately. I literally just like backed out of the room and like went and had like a full breakdown. And it was just such an awful feeling of like, just, I wish that there had been some language involved in the class that had made it possible for me to feel like safe or confident to just like step back to the side, or, you know, just know that like the teacher wouldn't, or the other students wouldn't like judge me for like just choosing what I needed to do. Because I think sometimes we go to class and we just need to move, and then other times we go to class and we really want to like indulge in that like performance vibe and like, you know, give something and perform to a camera and perform to the other people in the class. And I think that intention is really important to be clear on yourself when you're entering a space, but then also like for those who are responsible for cultivating that space, to be mindful of like just making sure everyone knows that they have the agency to make those choices for themselves. And it's funny that you brought that up also, like just about just the energy of it itself. Like, I was talking to a couple of my students yesterday after class, and we were just kind of sharing some of the really traumatic experiences we've had in dance classes growing up. I mean, my default goes to like ballet land, which is like no shortage. But even outside of that, you know, there's a lot of, there's kind of a culture around it of this artist mentality of like killing yourself to be great, and like the harder you are on yourself and like the more painful the process is, like the greater the art or the artist. And I think it's so important that like we recognize that's not the only way to learn and be present in our craft or practice our craft. And not only that, but for myself, like it took me a long time to realize that so much of what I was struggling with in regards to undiagnosed anxiety was, you know, not normal. But being in a class setting where like the only thing in your mind is, you know, I am ugly, I am to whatever, I'm not good enough, essentially. You know, you can't learn when that's everything that's your head is full of. And so, yeah, that's something I really try to help remind people of when we're in class together.
It's especially in dance, right? Because the mirrors are everywhere. And I get it, right? You want to see your form, but the mirrors are at every angle, and you go, oh God. Not. And then when you're in that spot in between the mirrors and you go, my body is dysmorphic. What happened?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's because we're so sensitive to that. And, it is an important part of the process to, okay, let's set an intention of how we're utilizing these mirrors. Like, what is this telling me? This is telling me that, oh, like my weight's a little bit too far forward. Let's like realign shoulders over hips, for example, right? Or maybe we're utilizing mirrors to assist with like the absorption of choreography and like being able to track and follow bodies in space. But too often it becomes this like tool of sabotage, of just like constant critique, which, yeah, that's a journey that I think anyone with any, kind of significant dance training or experience, or even, it doesn't even have to be that much. I think there's a lot of people who love dancing when they're young and have a like one bad class and they're like, that's not the place for me. And that's like breaks my heart, because that's the total opposite of what it should be.
Absolutely. It makes a difference though. Like I know growing up, I don't know if your parents were like this, but my parents were like, let's just try everything. So I was doing like ballet and tap and jazz and hip hop, whatever. And it really, I found like it depends on the instructor, but it also sometimes depends on the class, right? Like, respect the space, the little gaps in between, like, where's my window? Respect the windows. But also like, if the teacher sets it up that you don't feel, I don't know if you've had like teachers that would compliment certain individuals and then you're like, what am I doing wrong? Like follow this girl. I'm like, well, but what is she doing? I don't. And I still remember, I haven't thought about this until today. And you go, well, what is she doing? How do I do? And then I start comparing myself to someone else. It's like, well, I'm just doing me and, trying to have fun, little pop, whatever, body roll. But little basic hip hop. But it makes it, and instead of, there's some instructors that you have that's like everyone, just the vibe that you have, and it's amazing, and you just want to come back. But the ones that are like, why can't you be more like this girl? I'm like, I don't know, because we're different, and that's not my anatomy.
We're literally different humans.
Yeah.
It
was interesting. Yeah. But you know what, like to be able to dance, there's such when you have that class and that energy, it's just such a nice feeling to just let out your emotions and move. I miss it. Like I taught Zumba for the longest time.
Okay.
Like Zumba and Zumba fitness, whatever. And when you're moving and you see, it's so interesting being like, that's my version of being a dance instructor, right? So when you're on that other side and you're teaching and you're watching, some people, they're just like literally go there to move. And I love that people feel like they can do whatever they want in that environment. And it's that I'm here to just listen to some music and move and be happy. And I love when a class creates that, and when there's that community, that all the people, it's their regular time, they come in and they have their little spot and their friends. I'm like, I love that so much. And like to just be a part of that is so exciting. And do you change your choreography a lot, or is it like every week's a new class or a new song?
Yeah, every week's a new combo, new song, new combo, new intention, or different intention, I guess. And yeah, I think that's part of, right now, my life has gone through such a major transitionary period since COVID. And pre-COVID, I was teaching like, oh my gosh, almost every day, drop-in classes. And so it really became, and that's another big conversation that drop-in teachers have, because like, it's really in some ways unsustainable to be like just kind of pumping out choreo like so nonstop, because it just shifts, and maybe it's not necessarily unsustainable, but it really shifts like the choreographic process, I think, for a lot of people, or it can. And so I think something that's really cool is what every teacher is like, how they approach that process, be it what are they focusing on in the choreography? Is it serving specifically as like a means of honing specific skills, or drilling certain concepts, or does and it's tricky again, because like with the drop-in class structure, drop-in classes, back in the day were really for like professional working artists who were like doing shows or whatever, and they'd like go to a drop-in class to like, stay in their dance shape, right, for all their gigs and shows that they were doing. And one of my favorite things is that like now it's evolved to it's like a boutique fitness experience. Like anyone can go to a drop-in dance class. You don't need to be, you don't need to be a dancer, like in quotations, because I believe everyone is a dancer.
Well, yeah, you just gotta, feel the,
Yeah. And so, but this like evolution of drop-in classes and kind of who's attending them, how accessible they are, and like all the amazing styles of dance that are available, it's made it, I think it's interesting, like what people do. And for me, I say that because from a contemporary standpoint, like if you go to say GMD or the Fifth, like you're going to do, likely some center work across the floor. Like it's more of a technical focused class. Whereas if you're at the Underground or Studio North or something, it's going to be more in like more of like a street dance format where it's warm up choreo. Neither is like, I don't believe one is better than the other. They're just different. Like they're serving different purposes. And so, yeah, so it's just, it's interesting. GMD, yeah, it's like it's kind of the modern dance drop-in class.
Oh, okay,
Toronto.
okay. I know the Underground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. These guys are a little more niche, but they're really good. It's kind of where everyone goes. They've got like live percussion, and it's like magical. I haven't been in years.
What a scene.
Yeah.
But you know what, I was asking before about if you have to do a new song or a choreography. Because I find, yes, there's a parallel with, like, let's say a group fitness instructor, like choreography, whatever. But, once like a fitness instructor has their routine, they repeat it for a couple, the regulars come back, they're learning it, they come back because they want to just keep doing it. But as like creating new songs, and if you're doing one a day and it's new every time, that's exhausting. It is so like, I don't know if people understand, like you're creating your own stuff. It's not like there's a guidebook and everyone's doing it, right?
Yeah.
It is so taxing.
I know. I think a lot of people don't understand that either. Like it's literally from scratch.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you're looking at, okay, for contemporary, you've got some framework to work with if you're coming from more, potentially you have more of a framework to work with if you're coming from like maybe integrating some ballet technique in there or something along those lines. But, and also what we're really pushing for is like organic movement, creative concepts. And so all of that is original and unique and coming from your physical practice, your brain and your body. And so, and I guess that I should be clear that I'm speaking from my personal experience. Everyone has different ways of
for sure.
creating. But you're exactly right, because it's not like, for example, I don't know, even composing, right? You have a set of notes. Yeah. Right? I mean, which I don't know, maybe that's not the best example.
Well, you mean in terms of like there's a piano and those are all the keys you can play, but with dance you can do anything.
Literally anything. And the goal is always to be innovative and challenging and questioning and shifting and evolving. And and so that's one of the things that blows my mind. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most inspired by, especially in Toronto. There is just such a rich dance community here, and I know it's been so heavily impacted by COVID and so much has changed. Like I personally, and that's me being away for like 2 years, but I feel quite disconnected from it. But there's so much going on here, like, and there's so many phenomenally talented artists and creators and teachers and dancers, and in all these different pockets. Like just this morning I saw oh my gosh, I'm gonna forget who posted it, but it's just like on Instagram. It was like a crump like excerpt from this session they were having, and just like the wealth of movement vocabularies that are available in this city is so extraordinary, because it's such like a hot pocket of culture and diversity. I hesitate using that like that buzzword, but
no, but it's true though.
Toronto is really true. Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you said the drop-in classes were for originally like professional dancers warming up, because I love the notion of a drop-in class where you could just go and try all these different styles you didn't want to you were nervous to try, right? And you go and you're like, worst case, it's one day, you know, and you go, it's an hour.
Yeah.
It's
an hour of my life.
Stand in the back, whatever. And then, but you try all these different styles and you work with all these different instructors, and it's everyone is so creative. I'm like, oh, I didn't even know you could combine that with that and get your body to move that. It's so, it's amazing. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's so cool. And I think that's also where, again, like a lot of conversations are starting to happen, especially around like just the word contemporary, because it doesn't have a super clear-cut definition of, oh, this is contemporary dance. Like there's it's such a big umbrella of what's being currently held under that. And a lot of that movement is being influenced quite significantly by street dance forms. And so you have dancers who maybe began in more of a traditional studio setting with their ballet and studio jazz kind of training, but then since then have become exposed to and trained in, or dabbled in other styles. And it's really important that we're mindful of where that movement is coming from. I think that was a big and super valuable conversation that came up through that 2020 Black Lives Matter conversation and kind of uprising or resurgence, I should say, because it's so essential that we recognize that so much of the movement that we are playing with and or experimenting with isn't necessarily ours. So how do we acknowledge that and note where that comes from or where those influences are coming from, and just being mindful to give credit where it's due, and careful of not labeling something as new when it's not.
Yeah, for sure. It's just changing your perspective on how you think about things. So that's so interesting.
Yeah, it is a lot of perspective, and just really thinking about, oh, where do these even like rhythms, like I've taken like maybe 3 crump classes in my lifetime, but I guess I always reference back because individuals like Rhino and I guess really Rhino, like I just have so much respect for him, and like the 2 or 3 classes that I took with him was the first time in my entire life that I ever fully understand what it felt to be grounded when I was dancing. And it's the first time I actually felt strong in my dancing. And so, can you hear that sound?
I hear, I'm like, maybe they'll come towards me, the ambulances. Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's intense.
So loud.
I hope someone's okay.
I hope they're okay too.
I mean, it's like, you know what? It's downtown living. You get...
I know, it's downtown life. It's like the noise is one part, but then like the concern for the people is another.
I know, and I'm like, guys, get out of the way. I hope they're okay. It's an emergency.
Yeah.
Sending out positive vibes.
Yeah. Sending out positive vibes.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I just think it's important to, I just always want to like name that as like, that was such an informative and kind of movement changing experience for me. Was witnessing him dance because he's so extraordinary, but also just doing drills alongside him and feeling my weight in the floor for the first time, because all of my like ballet life I've been like up here. And even in ballet class it'd be like, oh, you need to be more grounded, like exhale, use your plie, blah blah blah. And it's like, I don't know, there's so much. But that was still within the context of also try to be the thinnest, smallest, like lightest bodied being. And so I could never, I think that was a big piece of what prevented me from being able to tap into that. Whereas in Crump, it was like, that's not even on your mind. Like it's, and not just Crump, but like, I think that's something I really admire about all of the dancers who are involved in like street dance forms and hip hop and stuff. And not to blanket it, because there's obviously so much nuance everywhere, and communities still have their own kind of, I guess, ideals and stuff, but it's just, there's a lot more permission, I feel like, and again, this is my perspective, but more freedom to just be present in your body, whatever that is, and like the focus is on the movement. Whereas like, I mean, ballet land, and even to an extent, like modern dance too, like for all of the permission that exists in that space to be like weird and artsy and, you know, just like right off the deep end in terms of craft and play and imagination, there's still like, there's still a like a vision that we have of like who these successful people have been in that history, and how, you know, like thin white privilege has played a role in that. So yeah, just like an awareness of those pieces, I guess.
Oh, very
Yeah.
my first experience with modern dance was so I did kinesiology in undergrad,
Oh,
and so
amazing.
I could, you know, sports for marks.
Yeah.
So I did modern dance, and that was the first
Oh.
time I'm like, wait, you want a flexed foot? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Can we discuss this? Like, so flex is when you bend your ankle, and point is when it's straight. But like that, it's you have to point. It has to be pretty. Oh, it's different. What is going on?
Yes.
Mind blown. So weird.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, that's like such a great point, because, you know, a lot of kind of what the story, the like high level overview story is, you know, ballet was a thing. And then people were like, no, let's go in the total opposite direction. Here's modern dance, curving the spine, flexing the feet, da 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 da. Like less pretty, more earthy. That's like a very basic overview. But and I think like, yes, excellent step forward, like really cool beginnings and like an amazing stuff, but like also recognizing that there were, and this is where I'm not an expert, but like there were Black artists involved in that evolution that did not get recognized near to the extent that others did. And so again, just being mindful of like the narratives that occur through this, and like who really was the like these kind of game changers who questioned if ballet really was like the only way to express, you know, through movement on stage. Or yeah, no.
I just find, you know, and I haven't spoken. It's so like you're the first official like dancer that I've spoken to,
Oh,
and I
I'm
just
honored.
but it's so interesting, the evolution of dance, just like the evolution of anything. How did we get to? Because like, you know, you think of the
Yeah.
evolution of theater, you know, where it
Mm-hmm.
was only men
Mm-hmm.
performing, even women's role, and then how did we get to where
Right.
we are? I just
Right.
find how we evolve with our styles is such an interesting conversation. So
It
I
is.
love everything you're bringing to the table. This is, I think people should know about this.
Thank you. I think the other piece of that is like, just off of what you just said, what makes me really excited is where we have the potential to go. You
Mm.
know, like even with, I haven't actually watched it yet, but all my friends are like, "Have you watched it? You must see Lizzo's the reality show with her dancers. Oh gosh, what's it called? Big Girls. I think it's just called Big Girls, or like the search. Oh, I'm making this up. I'm sorry,
No,
but it's,
I haven't heard of this, so now I have to research it. Okay.
yes, research it, and I also need to watch it. So this is our public
It's homework. It's
marker. But this is what we're gonna do.
everyone watching has to watch this. Everyone has
Yes,
homework
we will
on the
all
weekend.
watch it together. But like even that in itself, right? Because she wanted, and this is my understanding, so we might need to fact check here, but you know, she wanted big girls on her tour with her, and it's like no one was signed to agencies because they weren't deemed worthy. But there are so many beautiful,
Yeah.
powerful, talented dancers in larger bodies and fat bodies and big bodies who, oh, like they're
They're
there. It's
amazing.
just, we just gotta find them. And I, that like makes me so excited, because I just, you know, had I been able to grow up seeing even, you know, some of the people I follow on Instagram, if I had seen those bodies
Mm.
dancing when I was growing up, that would have changed so much for me in terms of not only how I felt in and about my own body, but also about what I believed could be possible for my own career. Like so many of the limitations that I believed and placed on myself were because of my limited knowledge of what was out there, and or also the reality of what was available to me, right? Like it has been as of relatively recently that we've started, you know, accepting, I don't know if acceptance is the right word, but like recognizing diversity in dance bodies, like started like, just, we are truly at the tip of the iceberg. But yeah, I do feel hopeful for what could be in the future. Yeah.
But it's so, like, again, I mean, clearly I'm white, so that wasn't an issue. I'm like, I didn't even read, and it's just so weird that, like, before these conversations, it's like, well, I just wasn't even, I mean, I'm aware to an extent, but like not aware enough. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I haven't seen this. I like seeing
Yeah.
this. I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Why haven't we seen it? Like, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah.
But it's just, like, why would I have it? But to know that there was a barrier that I'm like, I didn't even realize there was it's just, why was there a barrier? Or like, why weren't we, it just doesn't make sense. But to know that people like you or other people experience barrier, it's not right. And like, how many people, their career didn't happen because of barriers. And that's so sad, right? To not be part of the era of like understanding different cultures and like just accept like anyone should be able to do what they want to do. There shouldn't be a limitation placed on it. So it's I mean, I'm glad that we're trying to change. I find change trying. It's a slow process. We'll see where but at least we're trying, I guess.
We're trying. Yeah. And I think we're like having conversations about it. And I think like even at like lower, I don't know, not lower levels, but like at the beginning of people's dance journeys, to even these like small things. I mean, a lot of where I connect, because most in most places I basically am white girl too. And so where I really connect is in this realm is with just body, because like my body has never been dance body traditionally. And when I think about like the positive changes when it comes to just like the skin tone color availability of like ballet tights and point shoes, that's really exciting. And or like the education around not everyone can put their hair into this like slicked back bun, nor should they. Like, those conversations are really inspiring to me. And I think in a lot of ways we are becoming more attuned to language and this. So last year I had the honor of working with two good friends of mine, Alex Krenian and Deidre McDermott, and we essentially like rewrote this dance festival syllabus because of, we were judging this dance festival. Alex and I were adjudicating, and it was we were adjudicating last March, so March 21, right in the thick of all the Asian hate crimes and that escalation and the horrific massacre that happened. And so it was like this awful, just kind of domino moment of like that stuff happening in the larger world. And then there were a couple of dance numbers that happened that were like highly problematic when it came to like Asian stereotypes. And so Alex brought these issues to the attention of the directors, and they were so amazing. They were like, these are such important conversations. Let's look at how we can create change. Can we hire you to revamp the syllabus? Can we bring you in for a conversation with our students? And like, that is the first time that a dance festival or competition has engaged with those issues in a way that took immediate action. And that's something I've always really struggled with in competition land, because it is ultimately a business, and I recognize that a lot of it really is just a lack of education and awareness. Like lots of people just don't know, especially if you're in like, you know, a small town in Ontario where like there's like one Asian family, or like, you know what I mean? Like people just, their world is, they're living in a different world. And so like, I just think that it's doing people a disservice, especially in an arts context, to not create opportunity for learning and engagement with like why this is not okay. And it doesn't, I know that the ways in which we all approach these conversations can be quite different and informed by our personal lived experiences and or trauma and or, you know, whatever wealth of things we are holding. But I just think that people deserve the opportunity to learn. And I think dance is one of the amazing ways we can do that, because I think it's also important, like, okay, say you want to do, you hear this piece of music and you're like, oh, it's so beautiful, like it sounds Asian-y, and it's like, I'm gonna, you know, there's, and then you have this like, this is your moment, you can like choose to make up moves that also feel or look Asian-y, or ding ding ding, you can like go the other way, which is like, dig in a little bit, where is this music from, who made it, like, you know, what kind of dance usually goes to it, are you allowed to, is it sacred, like, you know, and or who can you hire to authentically bring this movement or vision, like, you know, to life in a way that doesn't take over or take away or appropriate. So like, it's just, we can't, it's not like a hard no, it's like, let's figure out how we can do this in a way that like uplifts and amplifies those who are the original creators. So I think there's a lot of,
right? Instead of
opportunity,
it's not, no, that's the thing, right? I think if you approach a piece that you're not sure of, instead of shying away or just kind of guessing, I think it's taking the time to learn and reach out to people that might have, I guess, resources. I don't know if resource is the right word, but just because you know, I don't want it to turn into, oh well, this piece is not for me, so I'm just going to not explore it, right? Because that's
exactly
that's just not what we hope to promote.
No, we want to get curious, like we want to learn more. And like the cool thing is we live in this age of internet, which comes with all of its pros and cons. But one of the pros is the like wealth of information and connections and people that we can find and talk to and, you know, pay or hire, right? Like, so yeah.
It's true. No, and I appreciate you even sharing the fact that we should do this, right? Because I think, I mean, now I feel like people might just be, oh, this piece isn't for me, and then just kind of walk away and explore, which is a shame, right? Because if it's a beautiful piece, learn about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and you never know like where that will take you too, in regards to just like learning more about a culture in general, or and the kinds of conversations you can then have with your students about, oh, where does this come from? And I think that also goes beyond ethnicity or culture there, because I think the other piece of teaching, and I guess in this moment I'm thinking from like from a studio dance teacher kind of perspective, but when you're working with children, but really it applies everywhere. You know, part of your responsibility as a teacher is to guide and lead through the example of curiosity, right? What is the heart of learning? The heart of learning is, I want to know more. I'm curious, you know, I want to explore what is unknown to me. How can I do that in a way that's respectful and inquisitive, as opposed to judgmental or defensive? And how can we engage in that process of curiosity with an open mind, and not without questioning, because questions are so important. But how do we phrase those questions, and who do we ask those questions to? And, you know, how do we dig into material that is new to us, or material that makes us uncomfortable. And then how do we unpack those things, right? If you're looking at a big conversation that's been happening in the dance world, especially around competition with young dancers, is like this hypersexuality of young dancers.
Yeah.
And which also ties into a really binary gender categorizations and how we approach the dance education of who we classify as girls or boys accordingly, and what we kind of project onto or set these young dancers on the path of. And so again, navigating those conversations in a way that is age appropriate and inclusive and thoughtful, and again, encouraging curiosity across the board from the teacher who might say, you know what, I haven't thought about this way. This is new to me. I'm going to take this home and do some research and talk to some people, and then I'm going to come back and we'll talk about it more next week. Or, you know, for kids to say, oh, like this is different from what I learned at home. Can you tell me more? I know they're hard conversations to have, but I think, again, especially in arts, like it's really interesting to me because I think I believe every human needs art in some way, shape, or form. It is integral to survival and expression and health and life. Like it makes life beautiful. It makes life possible. When everything feels like the world is on fire, we take solace in art, be it music or paintings or movies, anything, right? And so how do we make sure that we are creating safe spaces for people to develop relationships with art? Because I remember, I don't know the exact statistic, but I know there's been research on you know, how people experience harm when it comes to creativity in their like childhood. And so many people, it's an easy place to feel shame because it's because it's so vulnerable.
So, right, you're giving so much of yourself, and then when you get a rejection of any kind, even if it's unintentional, you just kind of die a little on the inside. And
for sure,
it's terrible.
Exactly. It's an extension of yourself. I remember the first time I really choreographed something and put it out there, I was like, I feel like I'm literally holding my heart in my hand out to an audience of people being like, okay, hope you like it. If you don't, please be gentle. And so again, as teachers, but also as parents or just people who are engaging with someone else's art, you don't have to like it. But we do need to respect, and again, to a degree, depending on what the art is and if there's like harm
that's fair.
Sure. But like for the most part, let's try to engage again with curiosity and openness and seek to understand and support as opposed to say shut down and shame. So I don't know how I landed there. But
no, we're going on a journey, right? There's no structure to this. We're just having conversations. But that's why I don't structure it, because like who knows what's going to come up and whatever you're willing to share. But like it's for people that you don't even have to have a dance background. It's again, you're right. Anyone going through the arts and sharing a piece of themselves and getting that early rejection, like it takes a toll on you. And it shows up. Like I know there was a part of my life where I just stopped doing the arts. And that was not a good time for me. And I couldn't figure out what it was, right? I know why I stopped doing it. But then you're like, a part of you is missing and you're not expressing yourself the way you used to. And it just, it's not like, you shouldn't have to feel that you can't express yourself that way. And it's a very interesting conversation. So, yeah. No, it is, right? Those feelings are, it's, you know what? It's not even like whatever negative reviews. People will say what they want to say. It's fine. I'm used to that stuff. I always get surprised. I'm like, okay, sure, that was an interesting take on that, but whatever. But it's also just like, again, we were talking about the instructor, but like when you try something and it's just, you know, when you were young and you're afraid to fail, right? There's this, oh, I wasn't like I didn't do it that way, so I failed, or I messed up this and it clearly failed, versus, you know what? Like, I put myself out there, and, you know, I tried, and it was,
Yeah.
like, you don't even remember, like, have fun, right? Where's the part where you're just
Yes.
supposed to just kind of enjoy? There's so many things that
Play.
I quit as a child because I just stopped having, like, I was just so hard on myself. I'm like, it's not perfect. I'm not going to do it. I'm done.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
but maybe if I just kind of change that mindset and realize, like, what is perfection? It's just keep practicing and figuring out how to get better. And, like, where are you? And instead of taking that time to explore and really figure out where are my struggles, I'm like, no, I'm not perfect at it. I'm just not going to do it anymore. And I think I see that a lot, not just with myself, but with a lot of people. You know, a lot of when you're younger and you're like, well, this is no point. I'm not perfect. And I hate that, this level of perfection. That's why when I see in society, it's like, you know what? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to, like, keep getting better every day. And, like, even if today's not your best day, tomorrow's another day. And just, I love what our society is changing with mental health and these conversations, because like little Robyn would have really loved these conversations.
Oh my gosh, me too. Me too. And I want to just touch on what you said about like that journey towards of getting better, of progression, of self-progression, of really digging into just, okay, let's just one step at a time, be mindful of moving forward, but not necessarily expecting perfection. And I think as part of that, and or maybe the other side of that coin, is also giving ourselves permission to let go of any sense of progression. What if we create and give ourselves permission to just play? And that doesn't need to be all of it, because I'm a super goal oriented person. I love feeling the forward motion and momentum. I love improving and feeling that. And I think that's a really powerful life lesson piece of, especially with dance, of, you know, I remember when I danced for the Raptors, it was so scary for me because that was like so far away from the world that I was used to. I went from modern dance to Raptors, which was a big leap. I was like, what are the feelings? And how do I flip my hair so fast? They were just, all those dancers I was with were so amazing and so strong, and they moved so together. And but the biggest piece that I took from that experience was every time we would learn a routine, I would feel so overwhelmed. I would think every single time, how the hell am I going to do this in front of not just a few people, but 20,000 people in a stadium? And somehow I would take this thing that felt impossible, I would practice it, probably more than a lot of other people because I literally needed to, and then I would do it, and then I would be okay, and I'd come out on the other side, and then I would repeat that process. And the biggest gift that that contract gave me was the reminder that as an adult, it's so rare that we go through that learning curve. We get pretty comfortable in the things that we know we're good at, be it our work or our personal lives. And so when we encounter these things that challenge us to develop new skills or push for something new, we're immediately, I'm starting a new job right now. I'm like, and then I remember, no, this is going to feel impossible now, and then it will get better, and then I will be on the other side. And this reminder of process is so important. And then at the same time, actively creating space to be wrong, to be different, to make mistakes, get messy, like Ms. Frizzle it up. You know, those spaces are equally as important, because it's in those moments of giving ourselves permission to be wrong, to be ugly or messy, that we discover beauty, and we discover new things, and be that new ways of moving or living or thinking. I think that's where a lot of growth can happen. So holding space for both of those processes, I think, is really important.
Yeah. But you know what? It's so, I find I have this conversation a lot with people. It is so hard to give yourself that permission. And it's so hard to get out of your habits, right? Of, well, no, this is too new and this is too challenging. And it's like, but then you think worst case scenario, what is the actual worst case scenario, right? Like, just accept that you're going to make a fool of yourself, or what you think, right? Half the time when you think you're making a fool of yourself, no one notices, right? They're in their own head. They're doing their own thing, right? So you think you've made this massive fool of yourself. No one is paying attention to you, right? They have their own stuff going on. So just kind of like
Yes.
show up and
Yes.
be a little scared, but like, no, again, what you said, they'll be on the other side. I like that. Just, it's, and if you're not challenging yourself to grow, then you're just, what are you doing? What's the point?
Yeah. I thought of something now and then I just lost it. Nope, lost it. I lost
That's
it.
okay.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for hanging
I always
out.
forget, sometimes you forget that people are listening and go, oh yeah, hey guys, thanks for listening.
I know.
Can I ask, so I was, again, part of the Toronto Dance Pack, the audition alone for the Raptors, like, the fact that you did that, like, I love that story so much because this is out of your element. You also have to audition, right? You have to, if I'm not mistaken, because I look into it and I'm like, okay, I know this is me being a realist. I don't want to waste people's time. Like, I was going to go and kind of like as a joke audition for them. I'm past that, but you have to create your own bit, right? Your own 32 bars of audition or something, like dance or.
Gosh, I don't know if maybe that's what you need to do now. It's pretty different. It's now like co-ed. It's the North Side crew.
Right.
Yeah, so my last season that I did was 2015, 2016. And
Ooh.
and then the first season I did was 2012, 2015. And so it was pretty standard, like just everyone shows up. You're in your like outfit, your shorts and your sports bra and your slippers.
Oh yeah.
Your hair is done, you're ready to go. You go in, you learn some choreo. There's a little bit of freestyle, and then they'll do like one. I think they usually do like, oh god, I can't remember. I feel like there's probably 3 rounds of, and then cuts. It's so scary.
The cuts are the worst. The cuts are the worst, especially when someone has like the same. If it wasn't a number and someone has the same name as you, and then it's like, Robyn G. I'm like, oh no, okay, I'm D. I'm good. Okay, whew, walk it off.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew.
Have you done a lot of open dance calls?
No.
Okay.
They're
the worst.
No, they're the worst. That's exactly why I hate auditions. No, that's a big part of why my career went the way that it did, because I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't like feeling like just a thing that people are picking. And I think, the very handful of film auditions that I got to do where, you go in, you do your thing, you leave, and then you find out. I'm like, that is a dream. The dance thing where they line you up, they're looking at your body, they're looking at your face, they're looking at your hair, they're looking at your height. They'll put the blondes beside each other. I'm like, oh, I am the only half Asian. Yes, but it's so specific. And I know film is often like that too, but I think that's one of the hardest parts about the industry, is that so often, and this isn't Raptors specific, this is just a general thing for the industry as a whole. You could be the best, most talented dancer. You could be doing like flips and spins and tricks like around everyone. But if you don't have the exact look, or if you don't fit the costumes that they already have, or if you don't, match the partner that they're looking to pair you up with who's already been cast, or if you don't know the director, or if other things haven't happened with the director, that's another conversation, then you're not getting the part. It doesn't actually matter how good you are. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize. And that's a big part of, I think, the mental strength and mental health practice that's required to be part of that industry, because you have to be able to maintain your sanity through such frequent judgment, and realize that like it's not about you, and it's not about how good you are. It's like about all these other factors.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And but you know what? It's so funny. As much as I hated the open dance calls, I would go half the time. First off, I love watching the other people dance. There was a point when I think it was like a Stratford open call, and this is like, whatever, quadruple pirouettes, doing the weirdest things with them. I'm like, And they said at one point, they're like, if you guys feel you're not picking up the choreography, feel free to leave. No one's going to be I'm like, I'm staying because I want to watch the good people go. So I had no chance. That's fine. I just kind of went for the social aspect of seeing what this was. It was fascinating. And then I watched these people that were incredible. And I think they only ended up picking one. And there was so many good people. And even my favorite one is who doesn't want to be a Disney princess, right? So I did like the Disney open calls, which they have all the time. I think they just always have them. And I go, and again, I'm watching other people. I probably should go to audition for myself, but half the time I'm just watching other people, even without the mirrors. I'm just looking, I'm studying people. And some of these girls were incredible, just to a point where I'm like, why are you doing Disney? You should be doing other things. I get, but everyone wants to be a Disney princess. Yeah. And they pick the ones that have the perfect face, that couldn't dance. And I go, but they didn't even, this is like a pivot turn, people. They are not picking this up. I didn't know you can mess this up. You know, when you go to those really easy open dance calls and I go, wait, is this a challenge? Like, I'm picking this up and I haven't, okay. But that was such an interesting one for me because I go, okay, the people that really couldn't dance but had the nice face, they moved on and they booked it. And I thought, I mean, look, I'm very happy for them, right? Everyone wants to book it, but for sure, like the people that were so talented, that were just, I didn't even know you can make a basic choreo thing your own, but they did. Stunning. I'm like just watching these people with the, incredible. And they didn't. And I thought, well, that's just, I mean, again, I'm assuming they found their way in the world because they were very talented, but it was an interesting thing of like, it's not your ability. It is sometimes just the look. And again, that is whoever's doing the project, they can cast whoever they want. That's their right. But just as the performer, as the person auditioning, you go, well, that's good to know, right? That even if you were the best person, if you're not what they're looking for, it's not you. So.
Yeah. It's such like an exercise in mental gymnastics. I don't know.
But it's so hard, right? Because as much as I can have these conversations and talk about it with acting and all that, it still sucks. It's still, you know, like even when you're on the other side and you're seeing all these talent come in, you go, oh my God, everyone's great. Yes, everyone is great, but only a couple people can get a role, right? And it's hard.
It sucks.
Because it's like on the one hand, it's so exciting to give the people the opportunities, but on the other hand, it sucks that you're not able to give it to everyone.
I know. That kills me about just the industry in general too. And I think it's especially visible in Toronto, where you just have so much talent. Like, a lot. It's insane. And there's just only so many opportunities. And that's part of what really shapes the culture of the community too. I think just that scarcity culture and
But I think, you know what, a lot of creatives I find are starting to create their own work, and that's also what the fact that, okay, if you're not going to cast me, but I know I still have talent, I'm going to create my own stuff. And I think so much art is being created because of that. And so as much as it, you know, it sucks to not get picked for things, it's kind of forcing us to go even more outside our comfort zone and create more things and share like other perspectives that aren't, you know, you're not even creating something for. Well, I'm going to create it myself, and this is my voice, right? And I love, and that's the thing, like I go on your website and I see all this stuff that you're choreographing or that you've been it's so good. I'm like, oh my God, she's so talented.
Robyn.
It's so good. Yeah, I openly admit to being creepy. Hello, I'm Robyn, I have a problem. But it's like it's just so amazing to see your artistry. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much. Is Instagram going to kick us off? I just noticed.
I don't, honestly, I know. It kicked me off one time. You're right. It didn't even give me a warning, and it just stopped. So if it stops within the next minute, it's been a pleasure.
Okay, same.
Yeah, that was really creepy.
But if it doesn't.
I know. So well, that's I'm like, oh yes, it's 12 o'clock. Good afternoon. But I appreciate these conversations because I think it's with every aspect of being an artist, right? There's the same problems like growing up as an artist and learning like all these feelings of not like being good enough and all this comparison to others. And it's like the fact that we can have these conversations, and the fact that you sometimes see a shift, and now you're seeing that we're having these conversations, that there is no right person and you are who you are and there's only one of you. And
Yes.
don't try to be someone else, because that's not who you are.
Yes,
And
exactly. Exactly. And I think that's the biggest lesson there is, you know, honoring yourself is the greatest gift that you can do, both for your craft and also for the world. You know, that's what makes you unique, and that's your light and your gift that you have to share. And I think that's also a responsibility as humans to like get to know ourselves and then let that shine into the world.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. And I know I was like, I appreciate you having all these conversations. And it's like, I want to refer people to like your blog and everything to read all the conversations that you're having.
Thanks.
I don't know how much we want to share on these, but I appreciate your ability to have the difficult conversations, like whether it be on this Instagram live or even in your writing, because I think it's so easy to get taken advantage of as an artist. And I just appreciate people coming, because it's so hard to share these stories, right? And you always think, when you get taken advantage of, you always think I'm alone and it's just me and it's something I did, or maybe not all the time, but for the majority of time, that is people's experience. And the fact that people are now openly sharing stories of, you know, this is what happened, and people go, oh my gosh, that's what happened to me. I didn't know that was a thing. Like I thought it was my problem. I was carrying this around. I didn't know who to talk to. So I just appreciate that you're one of the artists that shares their story, to know that people aren't alone and like this isn't okay. So thank you for being that kind of person, because it's challenging to put that out there, and I appreciate that. Well, not that like it happened to you, but I appreciate it. That was terrible. I appreciate that.
I knew what you meant.
Okay.
I really appreciate that.
Check myself there. Okay.
No, that was great. That was so funny. No, I really appreciate you saying that. And I think, it's also just a practice that I want to get better at myself. It's taken and is still taking me a long time to be able to just say my truth out loud, be that a big thing or a small thing, and be that to the public or even just to a friend or a person. So thank you for saying all of that. It really means a lot, and it's really encouraging.
But you know, it's like no one has the obligation to share it. So I'm not anyone that doesn't need to share. That is okay too, right?
Absolutely.
So I think everyone has their own like journey, and that's totally fine. But I again, it's just like the power and telling a story and sharing is it just helps to connect people and then like validate their feelings sometimes. But again, if people are comfortable sharing, that's totally fine. So
absolutely. I think there's actually, it's funny because I was actually talking to about this last night a little bit too. And just because I think when these big, you know, for example, Me Too, one person says something, everyone is like, and then it just literally triggers this huge like shift and like increase of memories, and everything comes bubbling up to the surface. And that in itself can be so re-traumatizing. I just finished reading Unbound by Tarana Burke, who's the founder of the Me Too movement. It's an extraordinary memoir. 10 out of 10 recommend, but it is very heavy at times, so just know that. But it's also really hopeful and inspiring. And she notes that her biggest concern when that, you know, Twitter viral Me Too hashtag took off and she saw it, she knew from her experience and the work she had done that it was so dangerous at the same time, because while it was liberating so many people, it was also just opening up all these wounds for so many people. And without the access to the care or support that you need to fully heal or move through that reopening process with safety, it's like very, very risky and dangerous. And on that note, I think when it comes to sharing personal stories, I think the value comes in you owning your truth and your story in the way that you need to be able to move forward. And how that looks is so different and personal for everyone. It could be as simple as just acknowledging it to yourself, writing it in your journal, or like saying it to yourself in the mirror with the language that you need to like understand and then keep going, or healing. And or it might look like having that conversation with your therapist, saying out loud, you know, to a friend who's has the capacity, or even within just like asking for help as an admission of truth. I think that that idea of sharing is really, really important to be mindful of, like, how is this serving you? And is this helping healing, or is this hindering healing? Yeah.
And it's hard to know. I mean, I don't think people are always going to get it right.
No. Yeah.
That was
agree.
a step backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe that just comes down also to like ensuring you've got the support around you that you need, so that, you know, if and when you move forward with things, like, you know, that you've got people to lean on.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so much to be said.
So like
well, no, but like there's your back, you have such an impressive background and you've done so much. And I wanted to ask you, did you graduate from Ryerson, but now it changed to the Toronto Metropolitan?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm like, I saw that on your resume and I'm like, is that changed now officially?
I didn't know. I feel like, honestly, again, a friend of mine said she's just keeping it as XU. And I'm like, honestly, I think I might just do that too. Toronto Metropolitan sounds so awkward.
Well, that's the first time I was reading it and I'm like, where's the Toronto Metropolitan? I mean, look, Valedictorian.
I know.
So shout out to the Valedictorian right here. Okay, brava. That's not easy to do. Okay, like but then I'm like, what school is this? Oh yeah, they updated their name. It's a whole thing. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Technically, it was the Ryerson University.
I didn't know
it was Ryerson University
yet. That's why, and I thought, oh, cool. Okay.
I don't know if it's like officially. I don't, honestly. I think
no. That's why I was just curious. I'm like, is that Ryerson?
Yeah. Unless they change it again.
That could be their thing, right? Every year they keep changing the name.
Maybe that's what they should do. Yeah, it'll just be like a continual change.
The graduating year should determine their diploma name. I think that's, there you go. We have ideas on these lines.
That's fun. Yeah, just like a choose your own adventure. Just like choose your own university.
Insert university name on your degree.
Chris.
Ooh, what is this? When are we getting... Is it called Miscellum Part 2? Question from Chris James.
That was in 2012? No, 2013. 2013, I put on a little show. And it was like the hardest thing I've ever done, and also the proudest moment of my life. It was like the first time I choreographed like a full length thing. First and only time I choreographed like a full length piece. It was like 40 minutes, I guess. And we like fundraised on Indiegogo, and we were like in our early 20s, you know, like so excited, make art, like me and my friends. And it came with some this is where I choose my
apparently it was amazing, so whatever happened, the end result was great.
It was, and
it was a process.
It was a process. I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about working with friends and the challenges that can come with that too. And in so many ways, it was like the best ever. And and thank you, Chris, for saying that. Chris filmed it, and he was amazing. And it honestly, like, one of my biggest takeaways was just, wow, when you are looking to make a dream come true, the support that can come from like the people around you, oh my gosh, like I just got goosebumps remembering like just the support of so many people that I never even would have thought to ask for support from, but then I needed to, and I hate asking for help. And so that was so special to feel so held and encouraged. And then to have it be such a success was so cool. But I burnt out so hard. And then the subsequent kind of basically a lot of personal falling outs happened. And
it's hard. I mean, you're so invested, right? Like, this is what you said, a dream of yours. I mean, that's the stakes are as high as they can be, right? Like, there's again, not trying to be perfect, but can we make this perfect? Like, can this be incredible the way I envisioned it? Amazing.
Yeah, and like for, a split second, couple days, like it was perfect. Like it felt so good. Like sometimes I look back on the footage and I'm like, this was like really decent for someone who was just I made it because I had graduated from Ryerson, and I felt like I wasn't good enough to get a contract with the companies that I thought I wanted to maybe dance with. And I also felt like a lot of the opportunities that were available to me were things that I just didn't really align with. And so I was like, well, I guess like you said, I'll just make my own thing. And so I'm so grateful for all the support that I had in doing that. And it really, really was like one of the biggest highlights of my life. Just because it's like, it really was my dream. But I don't know. Sometimes I think about doing something like that again, especially now that I have more access to resources, and I learned so much that I would hire people professionally with contracts. And
it's hard. You know what? It is so hard to work with people, and honestly, for me in general, it's just hard to work with people. And I say that because I'm like, I have a vision, and then, it's hard because it's like sometimes if your views don't align, or people have a different work ethic, which is totally fine, but it's like, especially if it's something that I'm so invested in. I know for projects that I'm working on now, I've already said to people, I'm like, guys, this is my work ethic. If it doesn't work for you, totally fine. Just let me know. But this is who I am up front. Just being like, this is what I am up front. This is my expectations. If it works great, I'm not cool. Won't be offended because I don't it's just so hard to find the people that you mesh with and groove with when it comes to creating something and putting something together. And that's that's just the way it is, right? Everyone has so many different personalities, and that's just life, and that's what makes the human experience so interesting. But it's not necessarily like, just because I don't want to work with someone doesn't, like, behind the scenes doesn't mean that I don't want to work with them. I'll cast them in it or something, right? But there's like, it's not like I'm not trying to offend people. I know who I like to work with, and I know the kind of work ethic that I would want to be put into a project, because like, I don't expect someone to be me, but I'm like, I just expect people to care. Please care. Please respond to my email.
Yes. And I think that's also, again, where it's really figuring out, okay, where do I need support? Who can assist? Who can like help with conducting some of those conversations or information gathering? Or, and just the big, like, hands down, the biggest takeaway prior to all of the personal things that kind of came from experience was that being explicitly clear about roles and expectations from the beginning, before anyone agrees to anything, is hands down the most important part. And you cannot be too explicit. Like, I need you to respond to X by Y, or the consequence is Z. And like, having those conversations like point blank from the beginning is so essential. Establishing that contract of what working together will look like, and making sure that both people feel confident and able, and okay, you can't do X or Y, this is what we do if that happens, so that like no one is ever in a place where they would become resentful or frustrated. Everyone feels supported throughout the process.
They're hard. And they're hard conversations, They are like to just, because you don't want to be so bold at the front, but if you're not that bold right at the beginning, then like how are they supposed to know, right? Like, I don't, it's not going in. And again, when you're starting out and you go, well, I don't want to tell them this because I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, no, like, I should tell you this because if you don't do it, you're going to hurt my feelings. And I'm going to prioritize my feelings. They're trying to create something. But I think again, it's just with anything, right? The more you do it, the more you're like, okay, well, this was not an epic fail, but it could have been better. So
It could have been better. Yeah.
let me clarify that.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that also like extends in some ways into life as well. Just like, again, even with friendships, like being really clear of like, oh, you know, this doesn't work for me. Can we X, Y, or Z? Just like, I guess it's, you know, basic boundary setting.
But you know, it's you say
still,
it's a basic boundary, but I find people are it's so hard to have these conversations of, you know, just so you know, this doesn't work, because you're like, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Hurt their feelings. Oh, yeah.
But I'm like, but they're hurting my feelings. So what do I do? I don't know.
I know.
I feel like this should be taught in elementary school. Like
me
this,
too.
you know what?
Yes.
Like, let's just have a basic discussion about how to interact with humans. It's just
yes. Yes. Just like practice from day one at school. Oh, this doesn't work for me. Can you do this or this?
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be so hard, but because we've been conditioned for so long, especially those of us who have grown up in like women bodies, or, you know, what's as appearing as such. I totally butchered that.
Oh no, I knew
sentence.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? You know, like, we are conditioned to be always accommodating. And this is literally what I was unpacking in therapy the other night. Like, just we're conditioned to be of service to others, and so and bend over backwards, and all of that stuff. So
setting boundaries 101, Chris. But even the whole, someone asked me, like, how many times as like a woman or anyone who identifies as a female woman, like, have you felt the need to apologize? And
my
so
God.
like, and that was, someone pointed that out to me, I think it was a couple years back. And now, as much as I try not to apologize, because like, what, not to, like, if I hit someone, you know, like I smack it, you know, I didn't see them and you know,
right.
Like, I will apologize. That wasn't my intention to smack into you, sir, ma'am. But, you know, like, for things that I'm like, wait, why am my go-to is just to apologize. And I used to say it was a Canadian thing, but like, I don't know, not everyone does it. So what am I apologizing for? Just to kind of try and clear the air. It's just so interesting. It was like a weird exercise of catching myself apologizing.
Yeah. That's a big one. Just like being aware of every time you say it.
But watching out, anyone watching this, no, Robyn told me not to apologize, so it's your fault that I crashed into you. Like, you crashed your car.
Yeah.
I'm not apologizing. I was on my phone, but I'm not sorry.
Okay? Right. No regrets.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just making sure, do you actually have something to apologize for? Because most of the time we actually don't.
I know.
And then sometimes we do. And then that's great to acknowledge that. And then if we don't, then we can keep going on our day.
It's true.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one final question and then send you on your way?
Sure.
Because I know it's been a bit of I love chatting with you.
I love chatting with you too.
As the physiotherapist in me is always curious about, like, your recovery and your warm-up time, and like how you're taking care of your body now, as, you know, like the dancer, even as and how, you know, like, because you were saying you were teaching a class every day, and I'm going, oh my God, is she resting? Is she okay? What are her injuries? Like, my mind's running like that. But is there a shift in your practice, or do you tell your students, like, is there a certain, like, guideline that you follow, just out of curiosity?
That's great question. That is a great question. When I teach, I don't do a ton of demoing. I'll do the warm up usually if it's like a newer class. And if I don't like have an assistant with me, I'll do the warm up. Also because I'm in my mid 30s now and I have to.
I thought you were like 20. Okay.
Oh my God, no, I am like 34 and a half. So, you know, it's, I know, shocker.
Like, you're older than me? What? Okay. You have the energy of a teenager. Okay.
Thank you. But yeah, my body feels different. I mean, in a lot of ways, my body feels different. Like, from I mean, okay, this is a whole other conversation, but just from, I guess, a logistics perspective, I always try to do a solid warm up. Sometimes we'll do like, start with something dynamic and activating. I did like a teensy tiny, like 3 months of bar fitness group class teaching in my life. And I learned some little teeny tiny tidbits that I think are still relevant. So I try to like, engage some core muscle groups and like get the heart rate going and build a little sweat and like activate the core and target the things that we're going to be working on. Yesterday was like, Claire, we definitely need to do some tendus and stuff and like work through the feet because our combo starts with a jump. So I want to make sure that you're warmed up with your ankles and your feet ready to go. Sometimes we'll do like a structured guided improv as warm up, but I'll be mindful of stating that throughout that like this is serving as warm up today. So make sure as you're moving, you are drawing your attention to like where you need to bring some like breath and energy into your muscles and or what's feeling tight, what needs some love, what needs some expansion, what needs some engagement.
But what happens if someone like doesn't want to do the warm up? If they come in late and they're not doing the warm up. I've seen that happen all the time. Like if it's a drop-in class, they kind of walk in late, or are they super respectful in your class? Probably. I feel like you have a good vibe. No one wants to be late.
I've been really lucky.
Oh my God.
That like I get really beautiful students who don't do that.
Well, because you have a beautiful energy. I feel like this is the thing. All this like I don't know if anyone gets injured. You're like training them correctly. You're like
I think that a key differentiation here is if it's an inter-advanced class, if someone comes in late, I am trusting they're at an inter-advanced level and they know their body enough to take care of them. For example, like one of the dancers yesterday, she like needed a snack because she was like rushing in. So she didn't do the warm up. She had a little snack, but then she like eased her way into the combo in a way. She's also like in her early 20s. So again, like a little bit more like reboundy. So I trust her or like my students to know that if it's a beginner class, usually everyone's there on time. I actually can't really think of a time when people come in late.
All I'm hearing is I have to take classes with you because everyone's respectful and there's a positive energy. Like this is.
Oh my gosh, come through. We have a really good time. And I do, with my beginner classes, I do try to be more structured. So we'll do like a center warm up with some like basic conditioning, like some planking, some core activation, glute bridges, stuff like that. And then we'll go into some just kind of foundational center practice, plies, tendus, rises to find balance and center. And then the choreo that I do for beginner classes is always pretty gentle. There's like very little high impact stuff. It's really focusing on, say, weight transfer, choreography, expression, things that challenge beginner dancers tend to be more like changes of direction or like moving multiple body parts in different directions at the same time. So I'm looking at how I can engage those processes through the choreography. So it's less about like, grab your leg and like leap and then flip. And so it's safer for the body overall. So even if you were to come in a little bit late, you'd still be okay.
Well, that's good. That's good to know, though, because I mean, you see these. I watch all these little. Oh, that's so creepy. It's like I watch all these little kids. But
I know what
you
mean.
see
Like
what's expected of them now. Do you like?
Oh my God,
don't think that level of dance was ever expected when I was dancing. Like
no. Definitely not for me.
What is this? I'm concerned for this next year. Like again, as much as we're talking about mindset, I'm like, what is this expectation? How often are they training? I think I watched that cheerleading documentary, Cheer. What is this? And that's insane. I have whole new respect for cheerleaders. Not that I didn't before, but my God, it's just there's so much work and not enough recovery or downtime because you're like, well, I only have a certain amount of time and only this, like they had, I think 2 years to be part of the cheer squad. And it's like, well, no, it's now or never because this is my chance. And then the injuries that you get when you don't take care of yourself, it's just you never recover from. So it's just no. But again, it's just like an athlete, right? When an athlete goes in and they really shouldn't, and then they get even more injured. And it's just that piece of anything athletic is such an interesting, it's not only a mental aspect, but it's like you're also part of a team sometimes, so you don't want to let the team down. So there's so much going on there, right?
There's so much going on. And especially in dance land, and especially in like ballet land, which I guess that's what I feel like I speak to, because that's kind of where my training was. Although I was never like prima, that's like a lot of what my training was. But there's so much of this, you know, don't stop, don't sit out. Like, you're fine. Everything's fine. We're always fine. Like, it's okay. I can dance through the pain. Like, I broke my ankle, but it's fine. I'll just get through this one performance. It's like, no. This language and that just kind of acceptance of that's how it is, because that's how it's always been, is not okay with me. Like, I will 10,000%, like, learning to listen to and honor your body and what it needs and what it is telling you is integral for health and safety, but also for longevity and being able to dance and live your fullest, because you are immediately hindering your abilities and your capacity for movement and expression the more that you punish your body. Like, this should never be about punishment. Like, I get that there's special circumstances, you are on tour and there's no one to replace you got to bite the bullet and just like get her done. You are an Olympic athlete and you're at the Olympics, you're gonna figure it out and go. Like, I get that there's special circumstances, but you're in a drop-in dance class, or, you know, even if you're in training, like training programs specifically, that's where I think it's really dangerous, because it's like, you are not working as a professional right now. There is no reason to sacrifice your body or your mind, for that matter, in order to do something that's part of school. Like, that just like doesn't cut it for me.
And I really hope the language has changed in schools, right? The whole understanding when to take a rest, and it's not, well, you clearly aren't serious about this program if you're going to take the day off. It's like, well, okay, I literally can't stand up, but okay.
Yes, I don't use this word lightly, hate that. Like, I know there's some dance programs that have a limit of like, if you miss more than 3 dance classes, then you like immediately lose a letter grade or something. Like, there's a significant punishment. And I'm like, I understand the intention is to keep people in class, but if that's what you're needing to implement in order for them to show up to class, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Like, why don't they want to be there?
Well,
and
they have to audition to be there, right? Half the time. So they want to be there.
Yes, and if you are not giving them the support that they need, or you're not creating a training program that is sustainable, that is allowing them to show up fully and wholly for all of their classes, then maybe the issue is with the program and not with the student. Or, you know, and like, what are you teaching them about sustainability and self-care as they move into an incredibly unpredictable career path that is so challenging, and you have to prioritize your mental health or your well-being. Like, before COVID, I got really, really sick. I was sick from like 2016 until early 2019. And I couldn't work at the same capacity that I wanted to. And it really impacted me financially, but also mentally. It was kind of mental and physical, but that time period was so extra detrimental because of like this constant battle in my head of, you have to show up because there's no other option, until I got to a point where like I physically could not show up. And that's, I think, why I'm so passionate about that, because I'm like, I don't want anyone else to get to that stage where they're forced to stop because their body will literally shut them down. We need to be able to be, and especially as movers who are, you know, deeply connected to our bodies at a level that is perhaps more than your average person who moves through their life without that sense of active engagement or mindful engagement with the body. We're in such a privileged place of being attuned to our body. So let's utilize that to know when it's telling us that something isn't okay.
I just really appreciate, no, but it's I really appreciate having that every conversation, every topic we've discussed, but it's more so because like being on the other end and like as the physio and seeing these professional dancers and like and but even not understanding why they weren't taught certain things, where I'm like how have they been pushing through, like the fact that people should know, like dancers are beyond athletes in my opinion, the stuff that they get, but how much of a mental game it is to be a dancer and to push yourself, and like and it's like I understand where they're coming from. I understand why they wouldn't take the time off, because you know, like you're that top spot, right? And once you're gone, like people are there, they're waiting for you to take that day off, and then they're not moving from. So I get it, but it's also like I don't know how you change that. I really don't, and that's why I appreciate having these conversations. I don't know how it changes, because there's always going to be that person waiting to take that spot, and it's terrifying. You work so hard for that one goal, and you're, you know, like you can't keep up or whatever reason, and someone else will replace you, and then you're done. That and like, how do you change that?
But I think that I mean, that ties into bigger like systemic things too, I think, as everything really does. But ultimately, if you're working in a work environment where perhaps you're on contract somewhere and there are work security provisions in place, so that it's written into your contract, you are injured or unwell in whatever shape or form, there will be a spot for you when you come back. And we are going to prioritize that, because yes, there are people waiting, but they will also have their time. And like, let's make sure that we just treat people with integrity and care and support and respect, so that it doesn't have to be this like dog eat dog land of Wild West, you know? Like, I think a lot of it comes through our culture, and I think the biggest obstacle is that the arts in general are also so underfunded and so under-resourced that often that's not possible because it's not there and it's not available. So I think big pieces of that conversation include like, okay, so how do we increase support and funding? And then how do we ensure that with that increased support and funding comes the like operations and logistics to support the improvements that are possible with that. So it, big,
I know, you know what, like
thing.
that's a topic that it's always on my mind.
Same.
Yeah,
like, how do we take care of each other?
Yeah, because that's the thing, right? And I remember there was a show where this one person, they were recasting, they weren't happy with her, and like, Robyn, take her role. And I didn't want to, like, I refused to do it, because I thought that is like, look, you made the decision to recast to her, and like, she's been doing the role. What kind of person would I be to take that from her? Like that. You chose to recast her. I'm not the director casting it. Like, I didn't want to do that. And I know other people were like, you should have just done it. But like, what kind of person would I be to do that? If someone did that to me, I would feel so shitty. And I just hate that. I hate that it could happen. It happens all the time. And it's just not a good feeling. And like, look, secretly, did I want the role? Yeah, I would have taken it. But like, I don't want to, I don't want to be that person. I have to live with myself. But it's, I think it's really just, I like what you said. Like, let's support each other as artists, right?
And figure out how to do that. You know, like, if that isn't possible right away, like, what other ways can we ensure people are taken care of? And if they're not able to come right back to where they were before, maybe there's somewhere else, or like a connection that you can leverage, or, you know, how are we taking care of each other?
Because I think it's also just changing the importance of things like, yes, as much as this is your life, like, if you're going to get like to a point where you can't walk after this performance for the rest, like, let's kind of just shift the priorities, which is, again, so hard to do. And I know I struggle with that all the time, like, legitimate struggles. But I think the more we can kind of try and reframe the importance of things, the better off we'll be in the long run. But it's hard when you're in it. But I just,
hard.
Oh my gosh, Bo, okay, like, we are officially best friends. It happened. I can keep talking to you. You have a weekend, and I have taken over an hour and a half of your time.
No, this was such a treat.
Thank you
so much again for inviting me. Shout out to Chris for connecting us. Yay.
And I've just enjoyed like chatting with you, and everyone. Thanks so much for watching, and enjoy your long weekend.
Yes, you too, Robyn. Thank you so much.
I'm going to say bye unless you have any final words.
Okay, nope, I'll say bye too.
Okay, bye.
Bye.